I get to start by saying good morning and welcome everybody. Thank you for coming. Thank you if you're not based in Chicago. Thank you for coming to Chicago. And we're here in Lincoln Yards. We get this vision. You know, this is kind of a day where we get to kind of own our status as visionaries, right? And one of them is one of our sponsors, Sterling Bay. Keep in mind, when you look out to the north there's 40 acres of development space that is going to be Lincoln Yards, and that's going to be, you know, that's quite a vision right there. You know, I love being here in the morning and this day because we're here with such a great group of like-minded people. You know, this is a crowd of people who are not looking to what worked for the past 20 years or what was happening, but is really looking forward. Where is everything going the next 10 years, the next 20 years? And so it's a great group to be here with. I'll check my notes, see if I missed anything. No, that was it. So I'm Brian Walls. I'm not wearing a badge because I'm up here all day. You probably will figure out who Brian Walls is, but I suggest to anybody, remember these lanyards constantly twist your badge, and we're trying to meet each other. So if you think of it, like, make sure your badge is facing out. Yeah, I'm at Bridge Alternatives. We've been engaged in crypto since 2017, and we have a long history in the financial services. So Bridge still has a introducing broker on the future side. We have a solutions group that does outsourced CFO, that is pretty much our fastest growing group. And then in addition, we are active in crypto, invested in several funds and on a couple of boards and as an advisor. There's a lot of things, and that's why I was excited to be part of this. You know, I've always wanted to be part of the next thing, and you know, I think that this is the next thing. I'm going to hand it over to Paul. I'm going to introduce you to Paul. Paul, I always think of as like, you know, he's like one of the hardest working people in Web3 crypto. And this event really happens because he has this unique ability to both think about how we need to grow a healthy ecosystem and pull Chicago together. And at the same time, I'm an investor in his fund, and I've seen him meet with portfolio companies, and he is laser focused on, are these portfolio companies going to succeed and how he can help them succeed. And he kind of has a unique skill set for that. But I'm going to let Paul tell you about Decasonic.
Thank you, Brian. Welcome, everyone, to our third annual Web3 Investor Day. Honored and privileged to have such a great group of visionaries and industry leaders with us today. As Brian mentioned, he's an investor in Decasonic and other top-tier crypto funds like Multicoin, 1KX, CMP Digital, Six-Man Ventures. I think his perspective as an asset allocator as to how asset allocators look at crypto and add value to venture funds like us, I really appreciate that, Brian. I think of you as impactful, insightful capital, and have LPs who are committed to our space for the long run helps us do our job effectively as long-term venture investors. You know, that leadership cascades from upstream capital providers to venture investors, venture allocators like ourselves, and hopefully it cascades to the overall ecosystem. And so a lot of our thematic conference connections today hopefully embrace that type of alignment towards you know, deploying Web3 to flourish society. I view Decasonic as empowerment capital. How can we work with our ecosystem, our founders, to unleash their potential? We will take $1 to $2.5 million checks at the concept stage, at the pre-product stage, and hope to get them post-revenue scaling their protocols, their tokens, their platforms for overall impact. That's where we're differentiated. We draw on our expertise of investor and operator perspectives to really roll up our sleeves, lead by example, commit to the long term, similar to how Brian and others have committed to us. And so today, we are sitting at a cusp of a fresh bull market. I think, Brian, we've done this 3 years. It's been quite enlightening to see the cycles.
And when we're planning for the event, it's always funny because if we start planning in January, what's the content going to be? We have to say, you know what, forget that, because and this year we started planning the content in like March and April, and we were like, yeah, let's wait till it gets. We've been through this. We went through it last year in the depths of things, and it's when you're in these markets and you're in these cycles. You realize how quickly the narratives and the memes change. And Paul and I spent a lot of time trying to suss that out, right? Like, what is just a popular narrative of this moment, and what is a more longer, kind of more durable idea?
I lead by example. I write monthly letters to our LPs. I ship them mid-month every month, and Brian, as an LP, is usually the first to reach out with an email, a call, a text of either encouragement or constructive criticism. And that ongoing, always-on perspective helps us track our learnings, continuously grow. And with that, I synthesize kind of our 3 key learnings since last year. And with every kind of learning I have, Brian will jump in and provide some insights. My first learning is, since last year, crypto is still misunderstood. As much policy change we've had, as much ETFs we've shipped into the market. When Kathy and I, my colleague at Decasonic, look at the on-chain activity, we're seeing across the board 3 to 5x growth in all the key metrics: monthly active users, transactions, tokens shipped. And yet, even in the venture world, we're flat year on year at $3 billion per quarter of venture deployment. There's still the ongoing narrative in the media of crypto and all the unsavory aspects, Molly White being quite a proponent of that narrative. And I think my first learning is we as venture investors, as asset allocators in this room, as innovators in this room, therein lies the largest opportunities. When there's a disconnect of understanding and misunderstanding, the non-consensus is much easier to build. We love these pattern violations in the world to drive our expertise and build opportunity.
Yeah, somebody asked me this morning, how early are we? And after chatting with Paul, it started to come to me. I was like, well, I think we're in the 3rd inning, but it feels like the 1st inning, right? And then that's where the alpha is, right? Every time you're not investing in a consensus, every time you're not building in the consensus world, it feels more uncertain, but that's where the opportunity is. That's where the opportunity is to build these products and to invest in them, because it's not consensus yet. And that all that kind of mainstream kind of narratives and storylines that are not part of the storylines you see. That's what I love about the venture side of this business, is I get to see the stories, what people are building, what projects they're building that are not going to really come out for another 3 to 5 years, and you realize, oh, this is still happening. This is going to be big.
Since last year, we've had a bear market, and the bear market has really washed out the superficial, left the substance, and that's been my second key learning. It reflects my experience as a .com VC. You saw the bear markets wash out the other 20-year-olds in that space. Some of them are doing real estate or operating cash flow businesses. Those
some are in prison.
And those who stuck with it are now in AI or Web3. I think grit, perseverance, endurance, this dedicated commitment to our space is now a market opportunity for many of us in this room.
Right. I think that, as Paul was saying, like that kind of, it's impressive when markets are volatile and you hang around like these offices in Chicago where developers are still sitting at their keyboards building products. They're still thinking about adoption. They're still they're still in these rooms talking about long-term use cases, what makes the most sense about disrupting banking, remittances, new social platforms, and it's just kind of, they're building right through it all, right through the bad headlines, right through the crazy prices, they're building right through it all, and it really gets you excited.
Well, and frankly, we're ignoring the headlines, we're ignoring the price action.
Yeah.
Very similar to .com, when you see innovation accelerate and financial markets not reward it, you just gotta endure and build, and I think that led to my journey after being a .com VC. I went to get my operating experience during the great financial crisis, another period where, again, innovation around social web, Web 2, started to accelerate the growth of MySpace, Facebook, Tag, High Five, all these social networks. They're exploding in adoption, and yet we had something going on with Lehman, and I made that transition over to Zynga, and it kind of informed this last learning from last year, or revalidated the last learning from the past year of, individually and then collectively, we can form these networks and collect our power to transform for good. I think with fewer people, much less noise, the noise shifted over to other markets, you're able to have an outsized impact. And I think having conferences like this and gatherings like this, having these conversations can now direct that impact towards how we want to envision this future of Web3. I think this power to transform to a fresh tomorrow, our conference theme, is what Brian and I kind of decided on for today's agenda.
It's not like, Paul has helped me to see that, right? Like the idea of the reason you see so many VCs, you see so many in this industry investing in things that, we love the ideas of banking the unbanked and projects that have, that are more equitable. And I like Paul's point is because that is a better investment outcome anyway, right? Like they're both true. Right? You might be able to kind of elaborate that a little bit better.
Technology for good is 10x, 20x larger than technology for who knows what. I think when you align the inclusive growth in Web3, the ethos of Web3, you could build sustainable, durable platforms and protocols. I think that is a challenge we're on the forefront of trying to solve. You see a lot of tokens pop and drop. That is a design flaw and an opportunity. That there is an opportunity to drive conscious capitalism, align profit and purpose. And I think that is a message we agreed to launch our conference with. And a lot of our conversations, Brian and I will have, start with what's the asset allocator perspective. And that's generally the first half of our day. Very honored and grateful to have leading asset allocators, family offices, LPs in trading funds and venture funds. A lot of our conversations, the feedback Brian gives to a general partner is around what is that market sentiment? What is the top of funnel upstream capital that might be coming into the space? Second topic that we generally talk about would be what's the regulatory environment? How are you adapting to what's happening in the US? What's happening at the SEC, the CFTC? Should you be more, in Dubai or Hong Kong or Singapore? Or should you onshore and stay in the US? And certainly with a lot of the political talk in Nashville and the recent election changes, you're seeing a shift in optimism that's going to impact our industry in the fall.
And we have a panel on this afternoon, right? And with Mike Fresh, and I'm just excited because it really in the last few weeks is the first time I can recall seeing political headlines affect the price of Bitcoin. It's like you don't really think that too often of like the politics is going to adjust prices, because now there's an expectation on what a new administration would bring or do,
And then the last half of our day focuses on use cases. We get this question so much. Where are the use cases of blockchain? Where are the use cases of metaverse and Web3 tokens? You know, honored to have some portfolio companies here building in AI, gaming, security, commerce, you know, seeing product being in the field, working with customers and users, impacting their lives is something we're excited to share with this group today.
And I love it because, you know, in financial services, right, like all the applications here in financial services, they're just kind of like an analog of what we built before. And I really get excited when, you know, kind of the same way like nobody thought of Facebook when the internet started. I like when Paul's portfolio companies are coming up with ideas that I never would have come up with. I just think of it as like, this is a way more efficient way to do margining, or this would be a much better remittance system. Like that's just an analog of what existed, but I like the portfolio companies that have totally new ideas.
Brian and I have these conversations you know, on a daily, weekly basis, and we're just grateful and honored to include the experts into that conversation, to include this ecosystem as participants in this ecosystem. It's very much the ethos of Web3 to bring together these visionaries and improve our industry forward. I think that there's so much about being in emerging technologies where, you know, 90% of the time you're going to fail, but hopefully we fail forward, we fail upward. And, you know, we hope that today's conference will establish in-person conversations and connections that sustain, you know, throughout the year, and you know, I think that's our overall goal for today.
Yeah, I just want to, we'll just kind of mention, right, so Paul came up with this idea and really leads the effort to get this done. Keith Johnson and Kathy and Lynn and everybody really do the background work, but it's quite a small team that puts on this conference is a funny thing, you know?
We're not conference people.
But that's what I was going to say, because we're not conference people, right? The whole point of this event is really part of that thing I said earlier, is this idea that Paul came up with, is like we really need to help have great conversations around Web3 in Chicago. Like it's happening around, but we really want to bring everybody together to do it once a year, and that's kind of why we put the work into it. And these sponsors, well, I'm going to do my spot. So
I was going to say, you know, these are sponsors, but also great people who work with us daily.
Yeah, the way they respond to the ask, right?
We're not running this. We're running this to break even and cover costs, and most of these people just love this ethos and very much aligned with what we're trying to do today.
Yeah, it's like they're easy conversations. Grayscale is here. Croak Fairchild, Duarte Barras. I never usually say the whole name. Impact Partners, Richie May, MG Stover, CMT Digital, Newform. World Business Chicago. They have a lot of words in that little logo. And Technos. All these people stepped up, and without a big press. They all just kind of like the idea of doing this, and they're the ones who underwrite it all. So if you get a chance, please thank them today.
And so thank you again for joining us. Welcome to our third annual Web3 Investor Day.
Thank you, everybody.